Oh, what it is, what it does, what it was, or whatever is Magnif, and I'm here to break down some cinematic shots, some cinematic frames to those trying to get in the game and a different perspective of how to go about maintaining your cinematography and making you get that plush look all the time, every time. Yeah, so I'm gonna explain the framework. What's a framework? The framework is just simple rules of the trade, principle, things that you just must consider on every single shot that you're composing. When you think about these elements, you kind of set yourself up to get the right type of look that you're trying to create. So first and foremost, point of control stands for if you're working outside in an outdoor scenario, you got to control for the sun. So in an indoor scenario, you have to control for the ambient and where you're going to put your key. Then where you're going to position your subjects, how you're going to position your subject, where you're going to position the lights with the subject, on and so forth. And the framework kind of works the same way from every scene. The most important part is light to dark, light to dark, light to dark. How are you creating light to dark within your scene? And always keep the camera on the shadow side of the subject. If you have those things, you're kind of in the right directions, but I'm gonna go explain other things that you should consider. Let's go. I bet. Camp X-Ray is our first shot here. So we have this lady in this room. It looks like a bathroom, I think. I don't know, I'm not sure if it's a bathroom or not. But yeah, so first thing I see here is the point of control. What's the point of control? Where's the main source of light that I need to adjust for with my camera? So right now, I'm seeing this window on the right-hand side. Now granted, this is strategically placed because it tells you all the light is coming from there. But they're probably lighting on top of the window. So there's a reason that you only see half of the window and the other half is just kind of out of frame. It's just how they can motivate and make it seem like the light's going there. So they're kind of built a fixture on the top of the light, kind of shining down on her to give you the apparent nature that she's being lit from this window. The reason why I know this, there's no way that they're gonna put the camera where they put the camera with you looking straight outdoors, because this camera needs to adjust for what's going on outside. Now, outside is pretty well exposed because I don't see the highlights or the sky blown out right now. So we kind of know that if they're exposing for this outdoor scene right here. So that's the next thing I'm talking about. Where are we placing the camera? We got to place the camera on the shadow side. So you can tell how this whole mirror thing is kind of playing with your brain, but it's a creative way by seeing her face while still being on the shadow side. So the camera's probably right behind her left ear on the shadow side of this scene. So we're shooting straight to her, and you can also see her face because of the mirror. So you can see how it's breaking apart. We see shadow, light, then we see these little interesting things inside the frame. So cool. Point of control, what they lit for. Second point of control, what light they fixture that they built for. And they probably have an ambient light inside the room. What's the ambient light talking about? The consistent light that consist in the room outside of anything that you're adding to it. So in this scenario, I'm pretty sure they're lighting it up. So like this room right now has ambient light. Of course, I'm getting lit by a key, but also there's light in the studio that gives it a type of mood. So right here, we have this kind of blue teal kind of feel thing. So they're probably bouncing it off something just to get the levels a little higher, because ultimately, if they're lighting from outside, that intensity of the light is not going to be able to compete with the natural light that's indoors. So they're probably gonna have to raise the light indoors so it can be properly exposed, so therefore it can compete with the outdoor light. So again, now, so we have the point of control. Essentially, we put the camera, we set it up for the light outside, and then now a point of our control is the light fixture that they put on top of this window to make it seem like the window is actually lighting up the subject, and the camera's on the shadow side of the frame, so therefore we have a contrast situation. Now everything else is all about glass, glitter, and glam. The window frame, the fan in the back, this little microwave looking thingy, the little tissue on the top, and the textures of the glass on the window. I see a little bit of forest out there. All this stuff is lovely elements. Now, she probably has another light over top because I can see a little bit of highlight behind her shoulder. So again, this is how the framework works. Shadow side, camera on the shadow side. Wherever the shadow is living, that's where you put the camera. If you see the outdoor, you have to control your camera for the window. Figure out where you're gonna put your key. The key needs to go on the opposite side of the camera. In this case, it's right on top of the window that they're trying to hide, that they're motivating from, trying to make it seem like the window is actually lighting this subject. Beautiful work. I love the soft light. Let's keep moving. So this scenario is pretty interesting. I love the shot. It looks interesting. I've never seen this. The Greatest Showman. Is this Zendaya? I'm not sure. It looks kind of like her. So first and foremost, what we're doing here. So this is an indoor scene. Everything here is manufactured. So the first thing I'm going to look at is the ambient light. So the ambient light is this softer light that's around the edge of the defocus aspect of the background. So you see how there's focus light in the middle, these little circles things are going around here, but the ambient light is what consistently consists of without that hard light that's shooting straight down. So boom. Now the next light that we're adding is this creative light that we're seeing here. We're probably using a whole bunch of fresnels overhead, creating these textures, these little circles, these little highlights of light, highlighting these characters. So you see, again, you're looking at light to dark, dark to light. Again, your eye must see darker things in the frame and lighter things in the frame. Once you're doing that, you're doing a great thing maintaining the cinematicness. Now, her skin is very warm. Now, she's in the foreground. Now, so she's not getting lit by the light that's hitting the people in the background. There is some other source that's hitting her from the right side. How can I tell? You see how this level is kind of brightened up on her kind of side of her chest, and you see kind of like on her left cheek, we could just see the illuminance, that there's a little bit of light shooting here. And they're probably going with a huge negative feel on the other side of her face right here, because everything just kind of just dippens down, like the intensity of light just dipping so much more from the opposite side of her face. So they're probably using some big fabric that's sucking up that light, that is causing that contrasty effect from light to dark on her face. So again, just break it down. So how did they do this? So first and foremost, they adjust for the ambient light. Then they added this creative light, create these circles in the background without hitting the main subject. Now, for the main subject, they have a key light going on the left side of her, hitting her face very, very softly but isolated, because it doesn't want to spill all over the place. And also on the opposite side of her, making it a lot darker so we can create that contrasty type scenario, so we can get that light to dark, light to dark. I tell people always look for it. So it's very important for these creative lights where they're doing these circles, for them to be fresnels, for them to be isolated, for them to be in control. Because if you just put big ass lights up there, this light is going to go everywhere. So the fact that they're able to control it in different sockets and different sectors in the background is a great way to showing you that they can create different dynamics, different layers of light throughout the frame. As we proceed. Cool. So this is a nice scene. I love the scene. The first thing I'm seeing is the organizations of the chairs. So why do I see the chairs? It's about lines, it's about organizations, about symmetry, about all these things lining up perfect that garner your attention to the subject. So all these chairs lining up. I love the little taste of light that they're putting on top of this light in the foreground just to hit the top of it so it can highlight, so it can illuminate. So it's just a little hit of light, while then we have the next layer, the table, which then just slides us all the way down, slides all our eyes to the attention to the person in the screen. He's beautifully composed right in the middle, and I even like the background. See all those lines? Symmetry, 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 symmetry. See all the lines up there? Symmetry, 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 symmetry. See all the lines within the ceiling, how they kind of just create some type of funnel. Symmetry. I love the fact that these practicals are off. I probably would have turned them on. They probably didn't like them, that's why. But the room just makes you pay attention to the subject in the middle of the room. Okay, cool. Let's talk about point of control. Point of control here is probably the top of the scene where this moonlight is coming from, this drop top light that's coming from. Again, so that's the thing that you're gonna control for. So this is basically creating the ambient. So now, again, always look out for windows. The part of the window that you can't see, that's where you're gonna put your light. So we think that this top light is lighting up everything perfectly. So, but more further towards the camera is probably fixtures in the room pointing this way, isolating this person, extremely soft. You can kind of tell on the background that it's hard to tell, but you can tell that there's light hitting it. But since it's such a soft texture, it just absorbs the light so well that you can't be able to tell. I love the practicals that they're putting outside. That's a good touch. So again, we're still getting our elements here. So the roof is the lightest part, but as we start to disband from the roof, it gets darker, then it gets lighter, then it gets darker. I love how they put the tables, the highlights that are hitting the tops of the chairs just to give it a little bit of glare. It's beautiful, and we can tell. And the fact that he has a white shirt versus the blue chairs gives a kind of contrasty type of relationship. And this is how we create those layers from colors to lighting and to framing. So the straight lines make you focus on the subject. The different light textures touching different elements in the rooms give a little bit of highlight, give it a little gloss, give it a little glam. And I love the dullness that's happening to the wall on the sides. It really doesn't garner too much attention, so I guess that's why they turned off the practicals. Great work. As we proceed, so this is a pretty simple scene. First thing that I see is, of course, they're using some type of gobo, or they're probably shooting outside of light. So they wanted this type of template, this type of type of pattern on these subjects. I love how half of, probably 25% of his body is in shot and all the rest of him is in dark. Again, like I said, the framework, light to dark, light to dark, light to dark. Point of control is this light hitting the carpet or this ground. And look at all the different textures of the floor, all these things at the side of the frame, like this messiness, all these clothes, like the cigarettes. It's telling you something about this thing, about this person. He might be high, he might be lucid, so it's giving it was giving like a mysteric emotion, while we have this silhouette person inside the window again. But you see it again, right? The framework, light to dark. So even that person being in silhouette inside this pattern type of shape that they made is still this cinematography at work. It's creating those layers, light to dark, light to dark. I love the aspect of some of his skin getting hit by light and the other side of his skin not getting hit by light. Again, the framework, Point of control, what are you controlling for? You're controlling for this light that you put there. Now, the next thing is the framing. How are you going to frame it? Frame it on the others. Frame it on the shadow side. Now, more of the camera is towards the more shadow side of his body, because more of his body is towards the camera, which is more in shadow, which creates this dynamic scene. And the fact that the light is breaking up in this window pattern creates a very interesting scene for your eyes as we proceed. All right, this is the last one. So first and foremost, if I had to do this shot, the first thing I'm doing is creating an ambient light. So it has to be blue. So I'm probably putting the room, I'm blasting it up in the air, hitting a wall to make this blue cast all over the place. Now, it's very, very soft light, so it's beautiful. So the point of control right here is the light inside of her eye, because that's the main part of the scene. So that's the most intense light that's coming behind the subject that she's looking at. So the point of control would be the ambient light, but since you don't really see it, it's creating the tone of the room. And then the next thing I would probably adjust for is the light behind the subject of the scene. So we have an ambient light in the room, making it blue cast, so automatically it's already going to be darky and moody, but they're creating layers by having his eyeball, and the glossiness and the wetness of the eyeball creates different interest, creates different textures of lighting, which doesn't make it just a flat scene. So the skin blue versus the eyeball blue and the eyeball moisture blue and the eyeball blue are three different blues, which creates dark to light, and the fact that this subject in the eye is silhouetted is also that light to dark type of scenario. So yeah, guys, that is the framework in just a fast, quick way of explaining it. But yeah, tune in for more videos. Till next time, to be your next time. See you next time. Deuce.